Under the haunting cover of darkness, Turul, the unexpected savior, and the slave, forged ahead. Their steps, a hushed echo against the cobblestone pathway. The formidable shadow of the main tower loomed ahead of them, every bit deserving of its fearsome moniker, the Tower of Evil. There's no door at the tower's basement, a design for maximum security. It was a barrier Turul had not foreseen. But the slave had a solution, a path that the young rebel could not have discovered on his own. A smaller tower stood adjacent to the main one. Unassuming in comparison, but equally formidable. It was their gateway. The slave led through its staircases and narrow outdoor and indoor corridors, winding its way towards the castle's deck and the entrance, leading them to the underground dungeons. The hushed silence that enveloped them emphasized the risk of their daring mission. As they crossed each doorway, they met guards who stood as formidable obstacles to their undercover mission. But the muscular fighter was no stranger to combat. His fists swiftly dealt with each adversary. The guards fell, their surprise etched onto their faces, even in defeat. The slave kept close, his eyes wide with awe at the strength and precision of his savior. Despite the confrontations, their progress was unhindered. Their goal was clear: reach the dungeons, free the comrades. Every fallen guard, every ascended stair, brought them closer to their objective. However, as they reached the castle's deck, a monstrous obstacle blocked their way. A cold shiver of recognition ran down Turul's spine. Emerging from the shadows, the colossal figure of Roka materialized. The light from the flickering torches dancing menacingly on his battle-scarred face. Roka, the cruel slave master, who had spent countless hours breaking the defiant warrior into submission, stood before them, his eyes glinting with sadistic delight. As Turul's previous trainer, he knew the enslaved fighter's capabilities well, making him a formidable adversary. His unexpected presence signaled a significant turn in their operation. The unexpected savior turned to his fellow escapee, the fear evident in the former slave's eyes. He placed a firm hand on his shoulder, a silent assurance that he would handle what would come.
Go,
Turul said, his voice a low rumble, urging him to seek safety while he dealt with Roka. The former slave hesitated, his eyes darting between his savior and the behemoth that was Roka. After a tense moment, the slave nodded, his gaze full of gratitude and admiration, before disappearing into the shadows. Alone, Turul turned his attention back to Roka, his expression hardening in anticipation of the forthcoming battle. This was not the first time they stood opposed. But it was the first time Turul confronted him as a free man. The moment of silence that followed was charged with impending violence. Roka's cruel grin widened as he watched his former property, now standing as his opponent. He slowly started unbuttoning his shirt. Each open button revealed a layer of his thick, scarred, muscular torso, glistening under the dim torchlight. It was an intimidating sight, meant to assert dominance and demonstrate his physical superiority. The former slave-turned-savior didn't falter under Roka's intimidating gaze. He stood tall, the spikes of his shackles gleaming under the faint light. His jaw was set, his muscles taut. He was no longer the slave Roka had broken. He was a liberated fighter, a beacon of hope for those still trapped in the tyrant's clutches. As Turul and Roka stared each other down, the Tower of Evil held its breath. The stage was set for the clash of the titans, a bare-handed, one-on-one fight. No weapons. No tricks. Just a test of strength, skill, and endurance. The atmosphere grew thick with tension as they prepared to engage, their bodies poised for combat. Their grunts, and the thud of flesh against flesh, echoed through the tower as they grappled. Their movements were a blur, each seeking an advantage over the other. Their strength and skill matched equally. It was a dance of dominance, a testament to their survival instincts. Their struggle turned into a chaotic whirl of punches, grapples, and swift evasive maneuvers. Roka's strength was terrifying, but Turul held his ground, drawing upon every reserve of his energy, fueled by the desperation to liberate his comrades. Despite the ruthless onslaught, Turul couldn't shake off a nagging suspicion. Was Roka deliberately prolonging the fight? Was he trying to delay him, to buy time for reinforcements? But the unleashed fighter pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the battle at hand. Drawing from reserves of strength he didn't know he had, Turul redoubled his efforts. His movements becoming more aggressive, more unpredictable. He focused on Roka's adversary, analyzing his movements for any vulnerability. He noticed a momentary lapse in Roka's defense, and, with a burst of energy, managed to land a solid hit, sending the monstrous man staggering. Eventually, the turn of the tide came. With a swift move, Turul managed to wrestle Roka down to the ground, his arm snaking around the larger man's neck. Using all his might, he tightened his grip, cutting off Roka's air supply. The cruel slave master's struggles grew weaker, until he finally collapsed, unconscious, on the cold stone floor. Turul stood victorious over the defeated Roka, his chest heaving as he caught his breath. his body aching from the exertion. The pain was a small price to pay. A mere whisper, against the rising tide of hope within him. The door to the dungeon stood before him. A gateway to his comrades. His mission nearly within grasp. Their rescue was no longer just a distant dream, but a tangible reality. And he would not let them down.